Hello, Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish Mother. I am back in my regular filming location. So I'm here today to do my TBR for the month of August, since it is in fact August 1st. So if you saw my announcement video for my Light in August challenge, which is taking place through the entire month, you will know that this challenge has two prompts. One is to read any text by William Faulkner, and the second one is to try to read more than half of your TBR for this month, or try to make more than half of your TBR for this month. Light, enjoyable, fun, just for you reads, rather than serious, somber, heavy, hard stuff to read. Because like I said in my announcement video, I feel like I've been reading a lot of heavy, more difficult things lately, and since I'm going back to work in about 2 weeks, I just want some lighter fare in the meantime. So, like I also said in that video, I know Brian at Bookish and Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics and the Codex Cantina also are all hosting the Faulkner in August challenge, or Faulkner in August readathon, excuse me, and they're all reading The Sound and the Fury together. So that's a great option for this. But I only own one William Faulkner novel, and it is Absalom Absalom, so that will be my pick for the Faulkner text that I am reading in August. I almost said October, I don't even know what month it is. I've actually never read any Faulkner novels before, so this will be my first. So if you have read Faulkner novels and you think this is a terrible choice, please feel free to let me know that down in the comments below. Or if there's something I should know going into this, having never read a Faulkner novel before, please let me know that too. So anyway, I have read several of Faulkner's short stories in the past, but they're totally different from his novels. So this says, Absalom Absalom is the story of Thomas Sutpen and his ruthless, single-minded pursuit of his grand design to forge a dynasty in Jefferson, Mississippi in 1830, which is ultimately destroyed, along with Sutpen himself, by his own sons. A century later, the figure of Sutpen continues to haunt young Quentin Compson, who is obsessed with the legacy of Sutpen and the Old South. So the first line of this, the first sentence of this, is actually quite long. It almost could be a paragraph unto itself, so this is the first sentence. From a little after 2 o'clock until almost sundown of the long, still, hot, weary, dead September afternoon, they sat in what Miss Coldfield still called the office, because her father had called it that. A dim, hot, airless room with the blinds all closed and fastened for 43 summers, because when she was a girl, someone had believed that light and moving air carried heat, and that dark was always cooler, and which, as the sun shone fuller and fuller on that side of the house, became latticed with yellow slashes full of dust motes, which Quentin thought of as being flecks of the old, dead, dried paint itself, blown inward from the scaling blinds as wind might have blown them. Lots of adjectives in that sentence. So that is Absalom Absalom. I will be reading that. I also have a read that I have to do this month because I'm teaching it in a course that I'm teaching, and I have not read this, so I need to read it so I can teach it. But that is Iola Leroy by Frances E.W. Harper. This novel was originally published in, I want to say, 1892. Let's see if it says on the back. Yes, first published in 1892. Go me. So I know this is a story about, it's what they call a tragic mulatta story. And that was a trope in literature where you had a character who was mixed race, usually African American and white, or maybe mixed back, both parents had a mixed racial background, and then that character feels like they don't fully belong either in white society or in black society due to their mixed race status, and then, as implied by the term tragic mulatto or mulatta, there's usually some sort of tragic outcome for that figure. So this says, Iola Leroy, the daughter of a wealthy Mississippi planter, travels to the north to attend school, only to discover that she has Negro blood. Sold into slavery in the South, she must struggle against the depraved intentions of her owners through the onset of the Civil War, while her brother, Harry, refuses to pass as white and joins a colored Union regiment to fight and rescue her. With these and other fascinating characters, Harper weaves a vibrant and provocative chronicle of the war and its consequences through African-American eyes, creating a masterpiece of social commentary. So, it will actually be quite interesting to read this month because I'm also reading for Lindsay's virtual book club, Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half, which just came out in June, I think, and actually also deals with the subject of passing, although not quite as far back as this. I think maybe in the 50s or 60s, and I think that follows, I believe that follows two sisters, one of whom chooses to pass, but both very light-skinned African Americans, one of whom chooses to pass as white and the other one who does not. You know, and so you sort of follow both of them and see how that plays out. So I think that will be interesting to read, also reading this at the same time. So that is Isle Leroy. The first line of this is, by the way, chapter 1 is entitled Mystery of Market Speech and Prayer Meeting. Good morning, Bob. How's butter this morning? All right, there you have it. So that is Isle Leroy. And I just mentioned Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half, so I'm also going to be reading that this month, and I've told you everything I know about it, and I don't have it here with me. I have it on hold as an ebook at the library, so I'm waiting for that to come through, so I can't read you the first sentence, but that's Britt Bennett's The Vanishing Half. Wow. Words are hard. Okay. And since I already mentioned a book that I don't physically have here with me, I'll go ahead and mention the second one, which is for the Barter Hordes book club, and that is Paris Trout by Pete Dexter. I don't really know much about this one, except that it is set in Georgia, and I believe it's set in the 1960s or 70s, and it is about a white man who shoots a person of color and thinks he's just gonna get away with it. And then it's about sort of the subsequent trial. I believe that is the premise of the book, but also I don't have that one here because, again, I have it on hold at the library and I'm waiting for it to come through, so I can't read you the first sentence. All right, so on to the lighter half of my reading for this month. So first, I have Daniel Silva's Prince of Fire. This is the 5th book in the Gabriel Allon series. So again, Gabriel Allon is an art restorer by trade and an Israeli ex-Mossad agent who keeps sort of getting sucked back into missions for the office for one reason or another. This says, after an explosion in Rome destroys the Israeli embassy, art restorer and reluctant spy Gabriel Allon makes a disturbing discovery: the existence of a dossier in terrorist hands that strips away his secrets and lays bare his history. Oh no, that's bad. Drawn into the heart of a service he'd once forsaken, Allon finds himself stalking a master terrorist. I wonder if that's going to be the same one from the first book. We'll see. Across a bloody landscape, generations in the making, but soon Allon will wonder who is stalking whom. Actually, did that guy from the first book survive? I don't even remember. So anyway, I'm sure this will be quick and pacey and page-turning because it's Daniel Silva and his spy thriller books typically are. So the first line of this is Rome, March 4th. There had been warning signs. The Shabbat bombing of a Jewish community center in Buenos Aires that left 87 people dead. The bombing of an Istanbul synagogue precisely 1 year later that killed another 28. But Rome would be his coming out party, and Rome would be the place where he left his calling card. Well, dang, I'm sucked in already. I want to read more right now. So that's Prince of Fire. I also, in terms of lighter fare, have this campus novel, The Shakespeare Requirement by Julie Schumacher. This is a sequel to her previous book, Dear Committee Members, which follows... Dear Committee Members is told in epistolary fashion, and I've actually already started this book. I'm about 20 pages in. And it is not an epistolary novel. It's just a regular novel so far. But Dear Committee Members follows the letters of Jason Fittger, who writes recommendation letters for former students, for to some of his colleagues as memos for requests for things, on behalf of some of his colleagues to put them up for tenure. And he's just very cynical and basically kind of says all of the things that you really want to say if you're an academic, but you don't, because that would be unprofessional, and you're a professional. So, but he's not. So yeah, so this says, now is the fall of his discontent as Jason Fitger, newly appointed chair of the English department of Payne University, that's P-A-Y-N-E for the record, takes arms against a sea of troubles, personal and institutional. His ex-wife is sleeping with the dean, who must approve whatever modest initiatives he undertakes. The fearsome department secretary, Fran, clearly runs the show when she's not taking in rescue parrots and dogs, and holds plenty of secrets she's not sharing. And Fitger's attempt to get a moss-backed and antediluvian Shakespeare scholar to retire backfires spectacularly when the press concludes that the bard is being kicked to the curricular curb. Lord, what fools these mortals be! Julie Schumacher proves the point and makes the most of it in this delicious satirical romp. So, the first line of this is actually from a fake campus newspaper article on this campus that talks about how the economics department just had a renovation, and you learn basically that the economics department is on the second floor of the building where the English department is housed, and the English department's on the first floor, but only the second floor got a complete, really nice renovation, and not the English department. So yeah, like I said, I'm only 20 pages into this, and it's already made me laugh out loud at least once or twice, so yeah, I think this will be good for lighter fare. Then in terms of other things that I just like to read, I added a poetry collection, of course, so I picked Evie Shockley's Semi-Automatic. This says on the back, Semi-Automatic insists that art can feed the spirit and reawaken the imagination. This volume responds to the 21st century's inescapable evidence of the terms of black life, not so much new as newly visible. Wow, is that not timely or what? These poems trace a whole web of connections between the kinds of violence that affect people across racial, ethnic, gender, class, sexual, national, and linguistic boundaries that do and do not divide us. In poems that span fragment to narrative and quiz to constraint, from procedure to prose and sequence to song, Semi-Automatic calls past and present for guides to a hoped-for future. So I'm really looking forward to this because I read Evie Shockley's The New Black last year and absolutely loved it. It was in fact my favorite poetry of 2019. And if you saw my recent wrap-up of my July reading, or the recent reads, whichever one it was where I just gushed about Layli Long Soldier's Whereas, I basically said I felt like it would be very difficult for anything to surpass that in terms of my favorite poetry. But I have high hopes for this because, again, I really liked her previous collection that I read. So if the first poem is not too long, I will read it. Starts off with some quotations from Fred Moten, Sonia Sanchez, and Tony Cade Bambara. Alright. This first poem is called That's a Rap, Sheet Music for Alphabet Street. If I sang the blues, would that be new, N-E-W, or new, K-N-E-W? Would booze follow blues? Would blood follow bud, flower, flow, sang-froid, cold-blooded, hot-blooded, male? If I sang frigid, would that be cool? Jazzy, jizz, buzz, the word. Do I have the right, R-I-T-E, to write, W-R-I-T-E, the body? The right, R-I-G-H-T, body to remain silent. Habeas corpus, to have the remains dans mes mains. My main man, handyman, unhand me, uncuff me so I can speak in my sign, my signifying language. Signs, wonders, miracles, temptations, 3 or 4 tops, hip-hops, micro brouhahas, address them and drop the mic. Ain't nothing new, son, about us being under the gun. Checked in the black box, never a dull minute. Oh, pennant, mighty muse, flighty music, put the light letters together, take it away. So that was interesting, and I'm very intrigued to read more, but as you could probably tell from my reading and attempting to make it make sense to you as I was reading it, you get more out of actually seeing it on the page because of all the wordplay that's going on with various spellings and homophones and things like that. So yeah, that's Semi-Automatic. Alright, and now we've come to the final few books, and these are just, they don't necessarily belong to like any category of books that I just generally kind of enjoy. These are just, they're definitely going to be light, fun reads and not heavy reads, and that is why I picked them. So the first one is Tippett by Maggie Griffin. So Maggie Griffin is Kathy Griffin's mother, I should say, was. She actually passed away in March of this year. And I'm actually sorry I didn't read this before she passed away. But now is as good a time as any. So yeah, anyway, if you've ever seen Kathy Griffin's comedy, you've probably heard her talk about her mother, Maggie Griffin, who at the time of her death was a nonagenarian, alcohol-loving, very Catholic woman who really liked Bill O'Reilly and thinks, you know, Kathleen needs to tone it down a notch in her, probably more than a notch, in her acts. So tip it was her little catchphrase because she drinks boxed wine, and you know, when you get to the end of the boxed wine, you gotta tip it to make sure you get it all out there. So, alright. So that's basically this. And the first sentence is, oh gosh, where do I begin? So I'm sure this is just going to be light, sort of fun reading. I also have on my list this month, Swish by Joel Durfner, My Quest to Become the Gayest Person Ever. And this has a very funny description. Joel Durfner is gayer than you. Don't feel too bad about it though, because he has made being gayer than you his life's work. At summer day camp when he was 6 years old, Durfner tried to sign up for needlepoint and flower arranging, but the camp counselors wouldn't let him because, they said, those activities were for girls only. Durfner, just to be contrary, embarked that very day on a solemn and sacred quest to become the gayest person ever. Along the way, he's become a fierce knitter and even fiercer musical theater composer, and so totally the fiercest step aerobics instructor. Just ask him, he'll tell you himself. And then it goes on from there. So, anyway, I think this will definitely be amusing. The first line of this is, on knitting. The two Englishmen were staring at the half-finished glove in my hands, aghast. What is that? The short one asked. Alright, again, I'm already kind of amused. I want to read more. So that's Swish. And then last but not least, we have The Big Jewish Book for Jews by Ellis Weiner and Barbara Davelman, who also wrote the book Yiddish with Dick and Jane, which I also have read and found very amusing. And actually, almost all of the books in my TBR for this month are hitting one of my 3 main reading goals for this year, which were 1, to read more books by Jewish authors. Jewish. 2, to read more books by LGBTQ authors. The previous one I just mentioned will certainly fit in that category. And 3, to get the number of books in my physical TBR, so books that I own and have not read, under 100. And by the time I make it through the books for this month, I'm going to be very close to meeting that goal. I think I'll be within 5 books, or maybe even fewer than that, of meeting that goal. So that's very exciting. So, this says, attention God's chosen people. Did you purchase an evergreen tree last year and call it with a straight face a Hanukkah bush? Do you really think your rabbi would approve of Heeb, Juicy, these are magazines, and J-Date, an online dating application? When a dinner party guest says he doesn't want seconds, do you let him get away with it? Talk about a shanda, your booby would be ashamed. Modern Jews have become so assimilated they think Bar Kokhba is a nightclub. They have lost touch with their cherished traditions that go far, far back to 1954 and then to 4000 BCE. It's time to relearn the old ways. And the Big Jewish Book for Jews is here to help. So come, learn how to deflect a compliment, build an arc, and appreciate pickles. Be all the Jew you can be. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I'm sure it will be entertaining. Alright, and the first line of this is... Oh, you know what? I'll just read you this opening paragraph from the introduction. So it's a joke. A young rabbi recently installed in his synagogue is informed by the shamus that the building has rats. They call this exterminator and that exterminator, but nothing works. The rats remain. Finally, the rabbi at the end of his rope calls the previous rabbi, who's retired. The young man explains the problem, and the elder rabbi says, "Ah, yes, I've heard of this problem in a different shul. Here's what you do. Wait in the sanctuary until the next time the rats come out. When they do, perform a bar mitzvah service for all of them. Believe me, after that, you'll never see them again." and oldie but a goodie. So yes, big Jewish book for Jews. So that is my August TBR. So I have these, whoops, one more. So all of these books plus 2 that I don't have here in my hand, so it's a total of 10. I'm not trying to go quite as hard as I did over the summer because again I'm starting back teaching again here in 2 weeks. So I don't think I'm going to have time to be reading 16 books like I did last month. So anyway, let me know if you've read any of these books or if you have thoughts about any of them. Let me know what you're looking forward to reading in August down in the comments below. I would love to know that. Hope everyone is staying healthy and well. I hope you're doing good reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call your mother?